Hello, welcome to our channel. Today we're in Leeds City Centre because we're doing a comparison between two filter systems, the Wine Country filter set versus Haida, the new M10 that they've released. Now, I reviewed the Wine Country filter system on fstoppers.com and I discussed how I love the quality of the filters, the colors, the sharpness. It was just incredible and I love that. And a lot of people were telling me how Haida make some of the best filters that you can buy. They're the sharpest and most color neutral. So I reached out to Haida and asked them if I could review theirs and do a comparison against Wine Country, and they were happy enough to send me a bunch. So today, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're in Leeds City Centre. We're going to take a bunch of pictures between using both filter systems and compare and find out which one's actually better. So I've got the Wine Country filter system set up on the Canon 5 DSR with the 24 tilt shift first. I'm using the polarizer and the 10 stop filter. For this one, I've already taken a picture of number one Whitehall without any filters, so we can use that as like a base image to compare colors and sharpness and so on. But we'll just take a first quick picture with this, and then I'm going to shift over to the Haida, do the same thing, and we can look at the images in Lightroom and do like a side-by-side comparison. So I've just realized something whilst putting on the M10 holder filter, and that is that when you're using the polarizing filter, you can't use the 10 stop with it. Well, this particular version of the 10 stop, you can use square filters in here, but you can't use the new style. So you can't use two of these together, which is a little bit sucky. And what I'm gonna have to do is basically remove the polarizer from this shot, shoot with just a 10 stop, and then I'm going to take the same picture with Wine Country without any polarizer, so we can do like a side-by-side comparison. But unfortunately, with the system that I've got, I can't use the polarizing filter with the Haida M10 drop-in 10 stop. So yeah, we're going to change things around just a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to take the picture with the 10 stop Haida only without the polarizer, and just press the shutter button. We're going to do a 5-second exposure, which isn't like a ridiculous long, but it is pretty bright, and I'm not stacking that many filters in this one because we're doing like individual filter comparisons. I'll do like more filter comparisons later on in this video, but this is just going to be the 10 stop by itself. So here we have the first set of images opened up in Lightroom now, and this first image that you're looking at was shot without any filters. So this is the control image, and this was shot at 1/200th of a second, f11 Canon 24 tilt shift. Now, I did shift the lens all the way to the top, which is causing this vignette and magenta shift. So what we're going to do is we're going to ignore that and just look at the image from like over here downwards. And the reason for that is because this is obviously not coming from the filters. I did take some more shots and more control shots without any shifts and so on. So ignore this for this section of the video, but you will see more images with better comparisons in a little bit. So this image is the control image, and if I put it next to the first image, which is the Wine Country image, you'll be able to see a few slight minor differences between the two. So first of all, this was shot at 5 seconds with a 10 stop filter. And if we're looking at the image from this section downwards, you'll notice that there's a very tiny color shift. The Wine Country filters are a little bit warmer with a tiny hint of magenta creeping into the image, but it's not that significant, and overall it does look pretty good. I mean, the sky looks relatively good in comparison. There isn't a massive color shift in between the two. And if we zoom in 1:1 compared to the neutral image, sharpness is pretty much identical. I really can't tell them apart when it comes to the amount of detail that each image has. Compared to the Haida image, there is actually quite a bit more of a magenta shift coming in. So if you're looking at the image down from this section here, look at the sky in both images, and you'll notice that the Haida image is noticeably more magenta in comparison. And what you're going to notice is this is quite consistent throughout this video. In every single comparison that I did, the Haida images had more of a color shift compared to the Wine Country filters. And if we're looking at this green section of it, like this building is supposed to be greenish, and because of that magenta shift, that green, those green tones are far more muted. And if we're looking at the building over here, this is supposed to be a little bit more neutral. Once again, the Haida filters look a lot more magenta in comparison. If I put the two filter images next to one another, then you'll start to see that the Haida filters does have a little bit more of a magenta cast going in, especially if you're looking at the sky and this section over here in the building and this section over here. Now, it's not a major issue, but in this comparison, the Haida filters do have more of a color shift compared to the Wine Country filters. For the second comparison, I decided to stack the 10-stop and the 6-stop filter for both systems. And to do this, I had to shoot at ISO 400 just to keep the exposure times at 30 seconds. I didn't want to go over 30 seconds. So that's why for this neutral image at 1/2000th of a second, I shot the standard neutral image at ISO 400 as well. But if I put this image next to the first image, the first filter image, the Wine Country filter, you'll notice that there are a couple of issues. First of all, when you stack filters, you are going to get a little bit of light leak coming in. There's a bit of a light spot coming in over here as well, and also some heavy vignetting. Now, this could be because of the viewfinder, because these issues are present in the Haida image as well. So it might not be because of the filters, but it's just the fact that because the sun was behind the camera, it might be the light is leaking through the viewfinder into the image. So that could be the problem. But even still, we're seeing some heavy vignetting. However, color-wise, it's actually pretty good. It's a little bit warmer in comparison to the standard image, but it's still pretty good. Compare that to the Haida image, and although the Haida image has noticeably less vignetting, still got a light leak and a little bit of a color shift in the center over here. So you can see that, you know, it's kind of neutral over here, and then it goes a little bit magenta over here. But that, again, that could be just the viewfinder. But the Haida image is noticeably more magenta. It has a much greater shift in terms of colors compared to the standard and the Wine Country image. And because of that magenta shift, you're seeing that the greens look a little bit muddy. They don't pop as much as the standard image. And it just doesn't look as pleasing based on the colors alone. If I put the Haida image, which is on the left now, against the Wine Country image, you'll be able to clearly see that the Wine Country image is significantly more neutral in comparison to the Haida image. But again, this is when you stack filters, which I don't think a lot of people do. But if you are going to do it, it's not something I'd recommend. I would probably say that it's a better idea to use a 15-stop filter rather than stacking a 10-stop and a 6-stop. But if you're going to do it, Wine Country is a little bit better aside from the vignette. Okay, so I just want to quickly run through both filter systems in terms of how they work, the build quality, and some of the features that I like and dislike about them. So first thing is, let's talk about the Haida system first, because the Haida system is somewhat unique compared to a lot of other filter systems that I've used. So you've got the traditional square holder section on the front where you can slot in square filters and longer graduated NDs, but then on the back, you've got this little drop-in section which allows you to drop in filters like the CPL and the drop-in 10-stop, which is extremely useful in a lot of cases. However, you can't use two drop-in filters together. So that's a little bit of a pain, especially for me today, because I've only got a 10-stop, which is a drop-in filter, meaning that I can't use it with the CPL. Now, if you can, of course, buy the square version of the 10-stop filter, so that's not really a point against the system. It's just an issue that I'm facing individually right now. The actual holder, the construction is decent. It's not like the best constructed holder that I've used. I'm not talking about durability. I'm talking about like materials and, you know, build quality and the feel of it. Like this section over here is mostly just plastic, and I wish that it was metal. It just would have felt a lot nicer. I just don't think it's got that premium kind of feel to it. The holder itself, solid metal, but just little things which feel a little less premium just kind of take away from that wow factor with this holder system. With the Wine Country, however, construction is just in a different league. Like, this is probably the nicest, well-made, best constructed holder system I've ever used. I mean, it's big and bulky, so that is something to consider. It's a lot heavier, a lot bulkier than the Haida filter system, but then the construction is just unbelievable. I mean, everything is just solidly well made. Everything is beautiful metal. You've got brass, you've got wood over here. It just feels like a premium product. It feels like it's worth every penny that you pay for it. Now, some of you may not care about that, but I kind of like that. I really like the fact that this is a really well made, strong, properly constructed holder system. Even things like the adapter rings. Like if you compare the adapter rings between both of them, this feels like it's been properly well made. I mean, it just feels so great. This feels quite light and not as premium. I mean, I'm not going to say flimsy, but it does feel okay. I am going to say a little bit flimsy, but it's just my opinion on the matter. Case wise as well, the one thing I don't like about the Haida system is that the actual case, I mean, it's okay. I mean, it serves its purpose, but I haven't got a case where I can put all the filters in, which sucks. With Wine Country, I've got this little case over here which I can put all of my filters in. So all of my filters are already in there. Easy, I can transport it much more effectively. So even though this is bigger, heavier and bulkier, I find this easier to transport than this with all the individual cases for every single filter. Overall, when it comes to like functionality and usability, the Wine Country filter system is one of my favorites. I mean, it's so well designed, it's incredibly well made, everything's been thought out meticulously, and that's something I love about it. And also, it's just stunning. I mean, look at it, it's beautiful. Construction is second to none. There isn't another filter system that's quite as nice as this in terms of build quality. Having said that, the Haida system, I'm gonna give this the slight edge when it comes to usability, because this is a little bit easier to use, especially when it comes to the CPL, putting it in and taking it out. I just find this a little bit easier to use. Not to say Wine Country is bad, because this is still right up there when it comes to some of the best. This is just a tiny bit better. Construction is a little bit crappy though, because, you know, plastic, I mean, come on. It's a little bit cheap in terms of the build. However, I think a lot more people are going to be interested in things like usability factors as opposed to how well something is made. Anyway, what we're going to do now is I'm going to take a bunch of pictures in a more controlled environment. We're going to compare each individual filter side by side. I'm going to leave those images at the in a link below as well so you can download them. But we're going to hop into Lightroom, have a look at all the images in a more controlled setting. So now we're going to look at the control test. So these images were shot in a more controlled environment. I shot it with the Zeiss 135 f2. I stopped down to f2.8 just to get a little bit more depth of field, but even at f2 this lens is incredibly sharp. Now I shot the 10 stop filters on both filter systems, the 6 stop and the polarizer. I'm not going to go through all of them, but all of these images are going to be available for you to download. In terms of white balance, although I always shoot with the white balance locked in on the camera, I have corrected the white balance based on this neutral image on the left over here. So this image was shot without any filters, and correcting the white balance based on the color checker digital worked out to be 4800 on the temperature and +6 on the tint, and that's the white balance that I've applied to all of the files, and you'll be able to see some differences between all of the images. Now for the 10 stop, I'm shooting with a square filter with Wine Country, but Haida only sent me the drop-in round filter for their 10 stop, so that's what I'm comparing in these tests. And first we're looking at the Wine Country. If we're looking at from this distance, there's a slight difference in terms of colors, but if we zoom in 1:1, you'll be able to see that tiny bit of a difference between the two, a little bit more. So the Wine Country filters do have a very tiny magenta shift in comparison to the neutral image, and if you just go back and forth between these two squares and these two squares, you'll be able to kind of make them out. In terms of sharpness, they're practically identical. I mean, I really can't tell them apart in terms of sharpness. Maybe in the corners there's like a tiniest loss in detail, but it's such a tiny loss in detail, I don't even want to say that the Wine Country filters are losing detail in terms of sharpness. They're just doing a fantastic job in terms of retaining detail. Moving on to the Haida image, and we're looking at the 10 stop drop-in filter for Haida, and this filter does in fact have a greater color shift compared to the Wine Country, and it's more noticeable when we zoom in compared to the neutral image. I mean, you can see it's definitely more magenta, and this is something which has been consistent in every single situation. So whenever I've shot with the Haida filters in real world comparisons, in controlled shots, and I've taken a whole bunch of images a number of times in these control settings just to make sure that I'm not making any mistakes, and every single time the Haida image is noticeably worse when it comes to colors. So you can see, just going back and forth, this is definitely more magenta. Having said that, in terms of sharpness, I really can't tell them apart. I mean, again, the Haida filters are doing a fantastic job. Again, in the corners, a slight loss in detail, but the Haida filters are doing a fantastic job in terms of retaining detail. Now, if I put the two filter images side by side, I've got the Wine Country on the left and the Haida on the right. To begin 1:1, you can see that the Wine Country filters are more neutral, and there is a distinct magenta shift in comparison to the Wine Country filters. In terms of sharpness, they're very, very close, but I'm going to have to go 2:1 on this just to be able to see any difference. But in the center, there's practically no difference at all. But as we start creeping towards the edges of the frame, you'll be able to see a slight difference in sharpness. And I'd say that the Wine Country are just ever so slightly sharper than the Haida filters, but the difference is very subtle. And I'm not sure if you guys are gonna be able to tell this, you know, on if you're looking at this on a smartphone. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell this difference on YouTube, but you can download the images and you'll be able to see that there is definitely a difference in terms of detail. The Haida filters do look a little bit softer in comparison to the Wine Country filters. The final comparison we're going to look at is a 6-stop filter. I did do the polarize as well, but you can just download those files because otherwise this video is going to get too long. But the 6-stop filter for Haida was actually the worst filter. This was the square filter that I had from Haida, and in terms of performance, yeah, these were not the best in terms of colors and in terms of sharpness. So the 6-stop Wine Country is on the left, Haida is on the right. Again, you can see a distinct magenta color shift in comparison to the Wine Country. The Wine Country is a lot more neutral, and in terms of sharpness, again, from even at 1:1, you can tell that the Wine Country filters are a little bit sharper in comparison to the Haida filters. So yeah, in terms of colors, Wine Country are better. In terms of sharpness, Wine Country are actually a little bit better. And finally, just to make sure I'm covering all bases, if I put the 6-stop square filter from Haida next to the standard image without any filters, you'll be able to tell that there's definitely a magenta cast, which is way more prominent on the Haida image compared to the Wine Country. But as I scroll across, you'll be able to see how much of an impact that the magenta shift is having on the image. And if I do the same thing to the Wine Country image, which is now on the right over here, compared to the standard image without any filters, you'll see that it's nowhere near as bad as what the Haida filters were. So there you have it. That's how Wine Country and Haida filters compare to one another, and it's pretty obvious. The Wine Country system is the better system. It's the winner in this comparison. I mean, not only do they have better image quality in terms of colors and sharpness, they're also way better built. I mean, one of them, Wine Country, is made of solid metal and beautifully carved wood, and the Haida filters have plastic in them. It's not really up for debate. And in terms of image quality, as you saw, the results remain consistent in every single test. The Haida filters had a greater color shift compared to the Wine Country filters. So it wasn't like a one, you know, like odd results here and there. It was consistent in every single situation. If we're looking at image quality, Wine Country is better. In every meaningful category, you know, Wine Country is a better overall system. So I would highly recommend the Wine Country system over the Haida system. I do feel bad about the fact that I'm giving such a negative review to the Haida system, because the staff and the people and everyone at Haida were absolutely wonderful and I really enjoyed working with them. So I kind of feel bad, but I can't bullshit the results. I mean, I have to show them as they are. I know that some of you might claim that I'm being biased, I've been paid or whatever, but I haven't. And consider what I'm doing. I'm literally just showing the results and narrating over that. And I can't really falsify the results because I'm also giving you access to the file. So it's what it is. Wine Country wins. It is the better system. Anyway, just want to say thank you so much for watching my video. If you like this video, hit the like button. Please subscribe, share this video, and hope to see you guys in the next one. Thank you.